Hi, I'm George with Amateur Logic and Ham Nation, and I've got my buddy Ray Novak here from Icom America. Hi, Ray.
Hello, George. Hello, everybody out there.
Yeah, welcome to the shack. You know, last time we got together, we looked at some mobile rigs. This time, we're going to take a look at a really nice bass rig. It's the IC-7700. I recently put one in my rack here, and I've been impressed, Ray. I have to say, this is quite the radio. It's not the bottom of the line model. It's not really even the middle of the line. It's not the top,
no,
but it's headed in that direction. What is the target audience for the 7700?
The 7700 is the little brother to the 7800, the ultimate DX contest radio. But there's a lot of contesters as well as DXers that love the 7700 just for the form factor and the simplicity of just having the single receiver.
What's different between the 77 and the 78? A second receiver on the 7800, right?
That's the only difference between the two. They're both high performance receivers in the 7800. As you'll see in the 7700, that the performance was the primary design factor in the radio. It's a dual conversion receiver, so there's less conversions for internal phase noise and also other internal areas to inject noise into an incoming signal. But just having just the single, and it's a price point radio as well. Somebody that would want that, and we do see a couple of SO2R contesters that instead of using the 7800 with the two receivers, they go with two of the 7700s.
Yeah.
And with the lockout switches and that, so they have two completely independent receivers, so they can do receiver diversity as well as two transmitters as well. And
with the 200 watts output, you know, normally I run an amplifier on 80 meters at night, and with the 200 watts here, there's a lot of nights I don't even turn on my amplifier now. I don't need 700 or 800 watts to make that contact. I can easily do it with two when 100 just wouldn't quite cut it.
Well, there's some that feel that they need to be the biggest signal on the band, and some of us, like myself, that just above the floor noise so I can get them in the log is all that matters.
You're big in contests, isn't that your primary activity?
It is, because of all the different ways of finding out who a call sign belongs to. It makes it a little difficult to sit there and rag chew, because as soon as they put my call sign together with where I'm employed, the band conditions go bad real quick. But one of the things that is similar between what I like to do contesting and you rag chewing is we both will be in front of a radio either with headsets on or through speakers for several hours at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And at one of the field day events where I brought some of the 7700s and 7800s, I had a wife walk up to me that was familiar with ham radio but just couldn't understand why to spend that kind of money. And I just came off the radio for about 6 hours, heavy pileup, heavy noise like what we see in field day. And my response was to her that being able to hold a conversation in a normal tone without having to repeat each other several times was the reason why the cost of the product.
Yeah.
Because hearing fatigue over a 4, 6, 8 hour period is something that really becomes noticeable, whether you have a headache or you just can't hear. Taking the filters and adjusting them so you take out that interference, that hiss, the white noise, and some of the guys up and down the band.
No, it really makes a difference. I mean, I know coming from a broadcast background, I was always concerned with listener fatigue. I mean, most of the program directors want it loud. Loud is all you want, but to me, no, I wanted it loud as I could get it, but still not make somebody's ears bleed in the process. You know, then they can listen longer. You know, you can hang in there longer when you're not forced. You might hear it on another receiver without good filters and maybe with fast AGC and stuff, but how long can you do that before you're just exhausted?
I've played with some of the older radios without the DSP, and around 4 hours is when I can really start feeling the fatigue set in. So, but one of the nice things, we do have the high-end radios with the 7800 and 7700. The nice thing about it is those design concepts are built in these radios, and they trickle down to the other radios as well.
Yeah, I have noticed that, you know, I've run a number of different Icom rigs here on the bench just through testing, and I've noticed they all seem to have similar functionality, And a similar sound. I mean,
Similar sound, even the button layouts.
yeah.
Maybe one of the reasons why this felt comfortable to you when you first turned it on is because of your experience that you had with the 7410.
Yeah. Yeah, I was amazed at how much alike the radios were. Now, of course, there's a lot of more features on the 7700, but it felt similar. The 7410, if I was, in the market for a radio in that price range, to me, it compares very favorably with this one. It sounds very similar when I'm listening to it. And I guess the DSPs are kind of kin to each other.
Well, we use different DSP engines in each one of the products. We've used Analog Devices, we used Texas Instruments, and we've even used some of the Analog Devices shark fin product. But one of the things that's consistent is the coding that we put into those devices. So it allows, regardless of whose product we use, to have the same look and feel throughout the product line.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at some of the buttons on this rig here. There's a lot of them, but they're really not that intimidating. There's a few that I don't know here, so I'm just going to stop and ask you as we come across those.
That's fine. Now, one thing with the bigger radios, and when we looked at some of the smaller ones, people have commented about the menu systems and embedding. And the thing is, when you go with a smaller front panel, less knobs, less controls, you got to put them somewhere.
Yeah.
And over time, you might not see at the very beginning, but over time you'll dig in and want to make some adjustments or some tweaks to the radio, and you have to go somewhere for it.
Right. If we start over here in the top left-hand corner, everyone will know what this button is right here. Of course, that's a power. Right below it's transmit, and that's the same as push to talk or pressing the key, depending on which mode you're in. This one has an auto tuner already built in it. You can see I've got it engaged right now. So I don't really have to mess with my manual tuner up here if I'm not going to be using my amp. A timer. Now, why would I need a timer? Is this to remind me to ID, or what is the timer for?
The timer on it is to have the radio come on or turn off at certain times.
Okay.
So some of us have our radios right by our bed. That could be your alarm clock to come on.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And some of the buttons do have multi-layer functions. Like the tuner, we can turn off or turn on, but if you push and hold it, that will force it to go into tune mode. Same thing with the timer. You turn the push and hold it, and it will come on and give you your list of timers, what the action is going to do, the day, if you want it to repeat, the on time, the off time, and what memory channel to come up on.
Oh, okay. So I can just set all my nets in there, and it'll automatically come up at the right times and bring it on for that net, shut down, and
yes,
when the other net comes on this afternoon on a different band.
You also have a sleep function on it as well.
Of course, headphones, we know what that is. Electric key, that's for a CW key.
Yes, sir.
All right. Of course, microphone. You'll notice I don't have a microphone plugged in here. Since I run external microphone and some audio gear here, I'm just feeding the audio through the accessory port in the back, which I can do with any of the Icom rigs.
You can. A lot of people do the outboard processing, while the radio itself has a nice microphone processor. But through the back, you bypass all the pre-emphasis through the microphone circuit, which gives you basically a broadband or a baseband audio level. Right,
and then you have more control over your EQ and all. I'm not a CW guy or much of a digital guy, although I will work PSK31 occasionally. And I think it's fantastic that this one already has PSK31 and RIDI decode, but encode as well.
Right, and also you can plug in a USB keyboard in the front here. Two USB ports for two different reasons. One could be used for your profiles. Mm-hmm. So I have a 7700 at home. I want to come here and operate from your location because propagation is a little bit different here in 5-land than it is up in Washington. So I can bring the memory and everything of my radio, plug it in here, and tell your radio to read from it, and boom, it is set up exactly like mine at home.
That's pretty nice.
The second one's for a USB keyboard. And there's some nice little keyboards that would slide right up underneath here
Yeah.
Or George, you could put a nice keyboard tray here
Yeah, and roll it in
and sit
out.
there and do RTTY right from the keyboard and PSK31.
I've seen other rigs that have the RIDI decode in them, but I think this is the first one I've played with personally that has RIDI and PSK31, not only the decode but the encode as well.
Now, I've talked to a few people that they don't even use a keyboard. They use the pre-coded memories for the...
And that's not bad because some of those guys on there are pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
And they always say the same thing, so if you've got it in memory, hey.
Well, it sounds like the digital modes are like contesting. Everybody's
Sorta.
5.9 or 5.99.
Yep. What is break-in? You know, I hear that term a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people, don't exactly understand that.
Well, there's two functions to the break-in. There's a semi-break-in and then full break-in. Full break-in is also, you'd hear people talk about if your amplifier is QSK compatible. The full break-in is what most of your CW contesters will run. And as crazy as it sounds, when these guys are doing 35, 40 words a minute, they actually listen in between the dits and das that they send.
That is crazy.
And when you're looking at logging as many cues that you can per hour, and you're sending CQ, instead of waiting and listening for that entire CQ, somebody might start sending their call right back to you. And if you hear CW in between your dits and das when you're supposed to be transmitting, that's more than likely somebody that is wanting to put you in their log.
Yeah, instead of doubling, you actually know that they're there.
Exactly.
That's a good description. That's pretty neat. Now, monitor, is this for monitoring your own audio through the headsets, or what is monitor?
Well, this is one that I know Uncle Bob's going to correct me on, but yes and no. You can hear your audio from the microphone, but you're not getting an RF sample of what you sound like going over the air.
Right. Well, yeah, and I think that's true with just about any rig.
But it does give you a basic idea if you're yelling and screaming into the microphone or what your audio contouring sounds like.
Of course, microphone and RF power here, that's the mic gain, and that's how much power we're putting out. Now, you notice I got the mic gain down. That's because I'm running my audio in through the accessory port in the rear, but having it right up front here makes it pretty nice. I don't have to go through any menu or anything. If I'm using the mic jack, I can quickly dial in how much mic gain I need right there.
Right.
Agc and Squelch. I never use a Squelch on an HF rig, but I guess maybe some people do.
Well, one thing about this radio, you also do 6.
Well, that's true, and you would want the Squelch there.
But there are some people that do use a Squelch. If they're looking for a band opening, why listen to all the static all the time? Just put the Squelch where it's just above the noise, and if 10 meter opens up, you're going to hear it come above that Squelch threshold.
Okay, well, I always wondered why there was a Squelch on an HF radio, but that makes sense.
But the AGC is a fun one.
Yeah, I noticed that. Most rigs, maybe they've got a couple of 2 or 3 speeds of AGC, but I pushed this button right here, and I was kind of surprised to see what it did.
Well, right over here on the screen, you see the AGC. It's right now VR for variable. But when it's off, just like what you're saying, you got your slow, your fast, and your mid. Secondary function of the button goes into your decay times that you can custom and dial in. Now, you can also set the default, which on CW mid is 0.5. But there are times when you're either contesting or you're DXing that those quick jumps are not enough for you. So you hit the AGC VR, and then you can make the adjustments from fast to slow. And it's fully variable at that point.
That's also, we're talking about, I use the term listener fatigue. That kind of helps you tune how much of that you're going to stand. I mean, sometimes you need faster if it's weak signals or if there's a lot of signals and of different strengths. But the more you can back off that towards slow, the easier it is to listen to me. Is that true?
That's true. Also, on 80 meters, it's more of a user preference. We were on 80 earlier, and for me, I don't like the pumping of the AGC that you get from static crashes. So I can come here and make an adjustment. If I'm working a real weak signal, I might want this a little bit faster.
Yeah.
But then you get signal fade on top of that. So it makes it real quick to be able to fine tune that, work the log, and then boom, go back to your slow setting.
Yeah.
And that's something that either a contester trying to find that rare multiplier, or the DXer that's trying to work that real weak rare contact that they need to get in their log.
Yeah. Now, starting back at the top, key speed and delay. I'm not a CW guy, but I think this has got something to do with CW, doesn't it?
It's a combination. You've got your key speed for how many words per minute that you're wanting to do, and in a contest to get them in the log, whatever speed they're sending at, you try to match. But that might be that multiplier that you need. So you slow down to what they're sending to you, get them in the log, and then go back up to where you want to be working at. So we look at the key speed for the adjustments for the CW signal. Now the delay is for the break-in.
Okay.
How much of a delay that you want between the time that the receiver comes up from when you're transmitting.
Now right below that, this is pretty nice too here, Ray. You've got buttons for noise reduction and noise blanker, but you've also got variable controls here for each of them. You don't have to go down into a menu to get to those.
Well, partially true on that. The noise reduction you can turn on, the noise blanker you can turn on. You do have the adjustments, but you push and hold the noise blanker button, you then can adjust the depth and the width of the noise blanker.
That's pretty nice.
So if you've got a real weird pulse signal out there, it could vary in width.
Mm-hmm.
You can make that adjustment. And if you make it too deep, it could chop out some of your signals. So then you can fine tune it for the depth. And then finally, the level of the noise blanker that you want. But as you see, we don't have that with the noise reduction. It's either on or off, and then your noise reduction control.
On a night when there's a lot of static in there, a lot of lightning static, if you've got decent signals on the other guys, you can work with that RF gain and the noise reduction here. You can just about eliminate that static in between transmissions. You don't hear much of anything. Now the voices don't sound as good, so that's the compromise. I only want to use as much noise reduction as I need to do the job, but it can really cut down on that fatigue.
Now also, the one nice thing about the noise reduction, depending on the signal that you're working with, you can use a little bit more noise reduction on it and it won't distort the signal.
So of course on the display here we've got a row of function buttons across the left side and across the bottom here, and these change as you go in different functions of the radio or in different modes so that you're seeing what's appropriate at that time.
That's one of the things I like about the Icom HF design team's philosophy, is we've heard about menus, and there's so many things in menus, and when do I use this, when do I use that? Why not take some of that out of the way? If you're in sideband, why put CW functions to sift through? If you're in CW, why go through the phone settings? You don't need equalizer settings or compression settings in CW. So why put it for you to filter? The top section will stay pretty much the same. The lower two will change here. And then these are for your display settings, and these will change either for the selection that you pick, the different functionality that you have with this section of the screen.
Looking at this one here, antenna 1, there's 4 different antenna ports on the rear of this rig right here.
Push and hold it. You now have a complete antenna switch network.
Oh, so I just put different bands of antennas on different ports back there.
The way we have it grouped are frequency ranges of the receiver and transmitter. You can tell it what you want it to do. But before you start telling it what antenna you want to do what, you can come over here to the antenna type. So say I have a beverage antenna. I can turn antenna number 4 into receive only.
Ah.
So now I toggle through, and now I've got antenna 1 receive antenna. I can then program that to be in 11 to 15 megahertz, which will be 20 meters. So every time that I change the radio and go back to 20, it'll set me up for transmit on antenna 1, but use receive antenna. It never fails. When this radio first came out, how many people had called in to get, now how do I set this up? Because I don't want to be on my 80 meter antenna trying to go 20 meters because I don't want to burn up the radio. And one of the other things, when you select an antenna, you see the little yellow star. That indicates that you're not on the primary antenna that you've got programmed in.
The meter button here. This is pretty nice. I like this meter. I like the the old
swinging needle.
The old swinging needle, and you can select what you want to see there for transmit or receive.
Now it's fun to watch people look at that needle and see it swing. How much code went in to make that needle swing just like an analog? But for those that like to see an analog meter movement, on the back of the radio is a voltage output port that allow you to build your own meter, or there's a couple of commercial meters out there so you can have your external needle.
So I could have a meter up here this big sitting above it and be swinging it.
Oh yeah.
But being able to select ALC or the compressor or the voltage of, this is the final stage, is that
Yes, sir.
correct? Or the current of the final stage. I could look at those two and tell pretty quickly whether or not I'm looking at a bad antenna out there. Or
Push and hold it.
There's more.
So you've got everything right there, all your multimeter right there in front of you. Next we've got the preamp, 1, 2, and then off.
Mm-hmm.
But say you turn your preamp 1 on. Instead of toggling through for a contester, they want to cut down the amount of time possible. You just push and hold it, and immediately goes from preamp 1 to off.
Okay.
And there are times when you'll turn the preamp off, and then there's times that you'll put the attenuator on. And the significance of 6, 12, or 18. Now, one thing that you got to be careful on the manufacturer's sensitivity specs. We allow you to turn the preamp 1 and 2 on. Our specifications are with preamps. Some of our competitors show you a specification, but their preamps are on all the time. They do allow you to turn it off, and then that is their attenuation.
Huh.
So in a real strong RF environment, or you're trying to work a weak signal and you got some strong signals around you, the attenuator becomes very powerful for you.
Yeah.
And the goal at this point is not how strong that signal is, but how you weaken the noise around it. It's basically improving your signal to noise ratio. And a lot of people don't really understand how to do that. And it comes into a combination of using your preamp, your attenuator, and then your RF gain.
Mm-hmm.
To bring your RF gain to where you're just at the edge of that signal. And the goal is, at least for contesting and even for DXing, to get them in your log. You might not want, for rag chewing, to sit there and listen to a real weak signal the whole time while you're talking to them. But there again, it might be somebody you really want to talk to.
Yeah.
But playing around with these 3 controls can really change what you're listening to.
Now, right below that, we've got the AGC. We've already talked about that. 1/4 off, 1/4 on.
Now, the 1/4 off and 1/4 on comes on for 2 needs. One is CW, and the other one's your digital modes.
Mm-hmm.
What that does is it changes your tuning ratio
So
that you have.
fine tune it.
You not only have your tuning step, where on the Icoms you push and hold to go from 10 hertz to 1 hertz tuning resolution. But this might be too fast for 1 revolution.
Mm-hmm.
You go from 0.027 to 0.528. But if I turn it on, and you'll see the indication come here, it now changes it.
Yeah.
The 0.27 now becomes several rotations.
Yeah. So you can really zero right in on them easy.
Yes.
And now if I go to sideband or something, that button is something totally different.
Well, yes, it is. If we come here to sideband, that becomes your compression button.
Yep. And so compression off and...
Oh, that one's got multi things for it. You got your compression off and on, but if you push and hold it, that's your transmit bandwidth.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of fun things that you can do with that, especially if you're contesting in phone. You can change your bandwidth, and I normally run it in the mid. It lops off a lot of the lows and the highs, gives me good fidelity, and as Bob says, articulation, and allows me to command a pileup.
Yeah.
And for those that have ever been in a contest, you hear people that are searching and pouncing that come across you. They work you, they hear you got a big pileup going, and then they'll plop down right next to you trying to pull the cues off your pileup. You can go there to wide, broaden your signal a little bit.
And now that's not a good place for them to land.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Of course, I rag choose, so I kind of like the wide setting. I like to listen to wide audio. If there's not somebody right beside you there, you know, that's much more pleasant to listen to. It doesn't cut now like a mid or a narrow signal would, but it's a nice, comfortable.
But you can tailor all of that deeper in one of the set menus on what you have your low end and your high end roll offs for it.
Now back to CW. All right, that's the same. VSC is the same whether I'm on either mode there. What is VSC?
The voice scan control allows you to scan through frequencies, and if there are heterodynes or there's non-voice characteristics there, it'll stop. It'll notice it's not a voice characteristic, and it will ignore it.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
So if there's several nets that you're waiting to come on, see if anybody starts checking in early, you can scan your frequencies and have that, and ignore everybody that's tuning up on those frequencies before the net starts.
Of course, we've got the scope here. We looked at that a moment ago, but we didn't talk a lot about it.
The scope is got some real interesting functionality to it. We have two different modes to it. Center, which the frequency that you're operating on is the center of the scope, and F1 changes so we can look at the variable spans here. When you're in a center mode, your frequency is the center of it, so everything kind of shifts.
Right.
That's a little difficult, especially if you're doing contesting, search and pounce. We're going to go to CW mode just for this demonstration, and go to center. Right now it's from 14 to 14,350.
Mm-hmm.
I can come into the set mode, toggle over to the upper limit, and come down to, say, 14.090. That's now the CW portion of the band.
And so I'm not seeing all these sideband signals out here. I've expanded where I'm seeing the CW portion in greater resolution.
It's kind of like a fish finder.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody now has a fish finder in their boat because it's no longer the fun, let's sit on the boat, toss a line out, maybe we'll catch a fish. Well, we can sit there and call out CQ all we want, or we can go look at a peak. There's a pretty nice signal there.
Mm-hmm. I believe that's a big old bass.
There you go. Now there's an attenuation for the receiver, but there's also an attenuation for the scope.
Now, marker there, that's just showing me the frequency that I will be transmitting on. Is that what this does?
Well, the marker will do several things for you. On the 7800, since you've got two receivers, the marker will be main, sub, and then where you transmit if you're in split. So when you go into the split mode, let's push and hold. Let me get this set up just a little bit. So when we go into split mode, you can now see where you receive and where you transmit. So if you're working a DX pileup,
right,
and they're running split, and you're trying to set your transmit and your receive and your transmit on top of the right spots, you can then visually see what's going up on the pileup.
Now hold, that just freezes the signal at that moment in time.
Yes.
So if I think there's a guy over here, he's just splattering, or he's real wide, or I know something doesn't look right about that signal, but I only see it pop up every now and then, I can hit this button and get a snapshot where I can go back. And
you could do it that way, and then go over to take a look at it. And it's really good to use the hold in the center mode, but in the fixed, the blue is your history where the white is the active. So you're going to still see the activity that's going on around it.
And then, of course, the set, that allows me to set some functions for the scope here. We just looked at the edges there.
It'll allow you to set so many different things on it. And I'm going to take it off of the wide function. And you can put a mini scope up.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reason why I'm doing that is I want to show you some of the things that you can do with it. I can change any color that I want.
Well, that's pretty neat. And I guess particularly for someone who is colorblind, that give them a lot more control over getting some colors, that shades they could see.
It will, and I've got a friend of mine where on her 7800, she's got the current activity in pink.
Mm-hmm.
So you can customize it. But there again, like what we were talking about before, DEF will take it to the defaults.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're back there to the blue for history and the white color for your active. For CW, you've got your keyer.
Where you can have pre-programmed in messages. And
Great for field day.
yeah.
I mean, it's not what a lot of the contesters will use. They'll use their keyboard for their favorite logging software as a key and things. But for operators for field day, it's great to program them in, or special event stations. And you can set out your CQ and your information, and then your setting modes for it. Now, on your electric key that we were talking about earlier, I can come in here and make adjustments to it, like my paddle polarity.
Mm-hmm.
You're left-handed, I'm right-handed. You have it normally wired up how you like it. That's all I got to do to be able to make it function like I'm used to.
Oh, okay.
Just come in and change it from the normal wiring to the reverse. Keyer type, electric key, bug key, straight key. Even the capability, if you're using a microphone with the up-down buttons, you can send CW with that. I've had people come up to me at shows going, "You showed me that. I'm not that proficient at it, but at least I can send out a CQ." More functions, your memory channels.
And you can see I've discovered that one and have put a few things in there.
Wait a minute. Nolans?
Nolans, that's some guys down in Nolans that talk.
Now, I keep mentioning about the USB. I'm going to show you real quick here, George. We go into set mode, USB. I can then save to a USB thumb drive. So if you ever come out and visit me, and
I can bring my Nolans with me.
yes, sir. In fact, I've got a friend of mine that's got a few of these, and he says he never leaves home without his thumb drive. For each one of his family members, he's got their profiles all set on a thumb drive so they can go wherever. Now we're into the set mode. We've got levels, accessories, display, time, and then others.
Mm-hmm.
The others is our laundry list, where regardless of what mode you're in, you're going to have these things in there. One of them is a calibration marker, your keyboard, how you want it to perform, your RS-232 function. And just some of those you set once and forget it.
Yeah.
But the one that a lot of people set, they forget, and then they call technical support, is a calibration marker. When you turn that on and you look at your scope,
And now what's that letting me do? See where the...
that's your calibration marker. We'll get phone calls, and this is on, I think, the 7600, as well as the 7800. Well, there's a birdie in my radio.
It happens every 100 kilohertz, huh?
Turn it off. In the set mode, we've got levels. In your levels, you can set up your receive, high pass, low pass, or bass and treble. Your transmit, your speech levels, your side tone levels for CW, your beep.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns that tone down. Your your phone levels. But you do all your processing externally, so you really wouldn't use any of the levels here. your accessory, which you do use through the back.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one real nice thing with the 7700 and 7800 is there's Sony Philips IOs on the back of the radio. Allows you to do your digital modes using a Sony Philips sound card. When we came out with these radios, a big comment was about ground loops.
And that'll take care of a ground loop.
You don't have to worry about RF getting into your digital modes using those Sony Philips. And the sound cards are real cheap now. There's your accessory AF output levels. I do think you use that a little bit for your external.
Well, I do for monitoring on the little mixer I'm running up here. The only thing I had left over was a mic input, so I just backed the AF output level down to where it didn't overload that mic input, and I'm good to go.
But then you've got your data modes on what you want it to come out, whether it's the SPDIF, the mic in accessory, or just the mic or just the accessory. So however you want that set. The send relay for your amplifier. External meter output, that's on auto, and just some of the other, if you use an external reference. And then the adjustments for that. The display, you found this one.
Oh yes, I managed to get my call sign in there.
But some of the other things we have on here, like your screensaver, after 60 minutes or 15 or just off. What you want it to do, if you've got an external display, you've got that turned on, what the sync is. But some of the real cool things like your APF width pop-up. So it just lets you know that it's there, what you did to it, and then it goes away. And then you can also put your different meters. Your fonts, your backlights, the LCD backlights, and then you have your contrast and brightness for the screen, because as you're working through a long period of time, you might have a dark shack, but during the daytime, lights coming in from outside, you can make adjustments for that. Your timers, you've got two different clocks up here. You can have them have the second one turned on or turned off. The different name for it, you can program it how you want to. And it's actually, once you set it, it's fairly accurate. And then like we saw earlier, not only can you load, but you can do your firmware formatting and then tell it to unmount so you can pull it out.
Okay, well, I know what sideband is, and I know what CW is, and Iridium PSK, and we didn't look at that.
Up in the top, you've got your indicator for marking space. It's not too bad. I used to do RTTY a long time ago all the time and got where I could hear it without looking at the indicator. Can't decode it like on Phenomenon.
Okay. You still need a display to decode.
Still need the display to decode it, but I do get where I can hear and recognize when I'm tuned in.
Yeah, so just plug in a keyboard and we're ready to operate ready.
Or
yeah, use a memory keyer.
But you got your waterfall display here. You have both RTTY normal as well as reverse, where it swaps the marking of space. But along with the RTTY filtering, we're at 500 with the bandpass filter. We can go to 250. But the DSP has got a twin peak filter. So it will put an additional filter peak on both the marking of space.
It really makes them pop out in weak conditions, I guess.
Oh yeah, make them really come out. But a lot of people don't know about the twin peak filter. It's under the APF button when you're in the RTTY mode.
And of course we can do PSK with it as well.
Yes.
Basically the same thing. We got a display here, plug in our keyboard or use a memory keyer, and we're right in there on PSK without a computer, just like with RTTY. If we come back out and look at some of the other modes, of course, I think we all know what AM and FM are. Let's just step down here, go to AM, and I'll just tune on down in the broadcast band here. This
Number one has to be above ground, which means
now on our bandwidth there,
massive
we can go out 10 kilohertz wide, which means we're actually most AM stations only go to 7.5 now, and yeah, we can make it as narrow as we want. On here, you can really tell how much better AM radio sounds than it does in the car or on a transistor.
Oh yeah.
Or anything else. Superb AM receiver. Of course, it's got FM too. Now, not FM broadcast, but 10 meter, 6 meter FM, as well. You can run FM anywhere. But
Oh yeah.
it's just not that common.
We have an auto-tune function. The auto-tune function works in CW as well as in AM.
Oh, really?
will be handed a tape
So we can be a little bit off.
whereby expel the heat that was
That's pretty neat. So it finds the carrier and
through all that.
Yes,
tunes
sir.
right to it.
So if you come up to some of the broadcast, and I like listening to some of the shortwave stuff down in the 6 megahertz range, and the scope comes in a little bit helpful.
Oh, yeah, you can tell right where they are.
6,000 yuan. Beijing Morning Post headline packing my self-service gains popularity at Kyushu. Apparently, people packing myself.
Oh,
And just tune that 10 kilohertz whistle right on out.
yeah, you can, and you can even change the width of that notch.
Huh. So data. What is data?
It depends on the modes that you're operating on. Say you're using a sound card software package. Well, that's data. So if you're doing RTTY or PSK31 slow scan TV, you're told to go to sideband. But your microphone's going to be live if you have one connected to the front. When you put data on, you then have your setting of D1, D2, D3. And depending on how you've got it set up in a set mode on whether D1, D2, or D3 is here, the Sony Philips, or the accessory jack on the back of the radio.
Oh, okay.
So you can toggle through turning it on and pushing and holding to toggle between D1, D2, and D3.
Okay. All right, cool. And we know what M-scope is. That was the little mini scope up here.
Yes.
Of course, exit setup, we've been pressing that anytime we want to get out of where we are, except mini scope where we just hit that button again.
Yes.
Now we got a row down here. Drive. This is used with AM. Is it used with anything else?
The drive gain control adjusts the transmitter level at the driver stage, and it's active in all modes other than SSB with compression off.
Okay. So everything but single sideband, the drive is active.
Well, single sideband when the compression is turned on.
Okay. Okay. So that's basically the audio drive level that's going into the compressor at that point, is how hard
Yes.
you're hitting the compressor. Well, the compressor button here does the amount of compression. And all of these here, you push it in, the button pops out, you make your setting, then you push it back in so it doesn't get bumped.
Yes.
Now, you'll notice I have the compression off here on mine. Of course, I could just hit the button and turn it back on, but you know, I'm running external compression, so I don't use it. But it is there and variable if you want to use that. Now, the monitor gain, this is for plugging in a set of headphones and listening to yourself. Is that correct?
That is correct, and the reason why it's on the front panel is if you're working a real weak signal and you're using your DSP and you're filtering, and it's to the point where you got to use a lot of headphone amplification.
Yeah, you don't want to knock
As
yourself.
soon as you transmit, boom, it's going to hit you. So you've got your monitor gain so you can make the adjustment.
And your Vox gain and your anti-Vox for setting up your Vox so you don't have to do your push to talk. Contrast and brightness both here for the display. Voice recorder or voice memory.
If you miss a call sign, you can quickly hit play and it will play back the last so many seconds, I think 20 seconds.
Through your speaker locally, but it doesn't transmit it over the air.
That is correct.
So what does the record do then?
The voice memory record has two functions. The first is if you just push to record the previous received signal for a preset time. and the preset is in the voice set mode. But the second one is if you push and hold for a second, it will record until you tell it to quit recording.
Oh, okay. So if I wanted to capture something just quickly here, I could do that.
Yes, and then the playback button will play it back.
And then we get over here to this set of buttons here. This is a numeric keypad, of course, but it also lets you go straight from one band to the other without having to shuffle up and down through a menu. You can just go straight from 160 meters to 20 meters or wherever you want to go. F input, that's going to be frequency input, so if I just want to directly enter a frequency, I could hit that button, and I could say let's go to 14.268, press it again, and I'm right there.
Now, one thing that is also on the keypad that we've done for many years is what we call triple band stack registers. So I can toggle through 20 meters. There's 14.285, 14.200, and 14.268. So if you're running a contest where you've got to stay in the same band for a certain period of time, but you can change frequencies within that band, you can look at 3 different areas.
Okay, and so each time I press, it goes to a different frequency there.
The last 3 that you had been in that, and it will also remember the mode. So you go to 180, it's the last 3 in 180, 80 meters on all of them.
Okay, well, that's good. I didn't realize that was there. And I see it also remembers where I've got the filter set and all of that as well. That's pretty cool. What is GENE?
General coverage.
Okay, just to make it a general coverage receiver then.
Yes.
All right, and of course this is stepping through my memory channels here that I had programmed in. Memory write and read, no?
We've called them scratch pad memories.
Okay, so you can just catch something. I know I'm going to want to come back here.
Yes, depending on how you've got it set up in the set mode, I believe it's 5 and 10
Okay.
that you can have. So you can quickly change bands. So set up for a contest your 5 bands and the frequencies that you want to operate on those bands. You can quickly go to it.
Okay. And then, of course, memory write, and then select between the VFO and the memory, and it's wherever I had the VFO last.
They're all tunable memories, and what I mean by that is you go to a memory channel, and I can tune off of it.
Mm-hmm. That's
so
right.
I'm not locked solid on that one.
You don't have to go back to VFO before you can start dialing again.
Right, and it's helpful for those that might not have a stable transmitter on one of those nets.
AB, that allows me to select between the 2 VFOs.
Yes.
And A equals B just copies whatever's in A over to the B VFO.
Yes, it does, and a couple other things. So say you've got a tighter filter that you're listening here, but you hit the XFC, it's going to go back to the other filter that you have in your other VFO.
Okay.
So you can be extremely tight here on your filtering and a little bit wider on where you're going to transmit.
Okay. That's a good idea.
And then you see the real bright white light to let you know you're in split mode. And I've had a lot of guys tell me that while it seems obnoxious when they first use it, it's saved them. And you're in split mode, you're not in...
You're not talking to who you think you are.
Yep.
Also, the tune step here, and that puts a little arrow over here, lets us know what step we're in, or we can hold it in and switch resolutions there.
And when you put it over the top and you push and hold it again, it then comes in here for mode specific on what in kilohertz you want it to step by.
Okay, well, that's a good idea.
So everything is 1 kilohertz except in FM where you're on 10 kilohertz.
And then lock, and that just keeps me from bumping the VFO.
Yes.
Self-explanatory. And then, you know, we've talked a little bit about the filters, not a lot, but there's basically 3 different filters here, bandwidth that I can select through. I can have it really narrow for when there's somebody right next door just chirping in there and completely eliminate them, or open it up wider, you know, for some rag chew, or just set it kind of medium there. which is good for the nets and stuff when the bands are pretty busy.
Go ahead and push and hold it for a moment.
Yeah, now here I can do some tailoring, can't I?
Yes, you can tweak it to be any way that you want your filtering. You do have the twin passband tuning for on your fly changes, but then you can set your bandwidths. So if you want your wide, super wide, it'll go out to 3.6 kilohertz.
Okay. Now, I did not realize it went quite that far because I haven't played in this button before.
So we can come here for your filter 1, 3.6. So when you're rag chewing, you want them real wide.
Mm-hmm.
You can select the roofing filter that you want, whether it's 15, 6, or 3, and the shape of the roofing filter.
Mm-hmm. And I can do that for all three of the filter
Yes.
presets there. Yeah, the filtering is excellent on here. It's real sharp. Even when it's in soft, it seems to do a good job of cutting out those adjacent frequencies.
And then you can also, it's good for teaching as well, by showing how you can shift the band, the IFs, in opposite directions to narrow it down. But one thing to remember, while you might be at a 1.5,
Mm-hmm.
you still have the skirts on the side here, so you can still hear some adjacent signal where a 1.5 here,
Yeah, no skirts.
no skirts. So there is a difference between that 1.5 and that 1.5.
Yeah. If we're going down to the next one, passband tuning and clear. So if I'm in the, what mode am I on there?
It doesn't matter which mode you're in, but if you make adjustments,
Mm-hmm.
if you push and hold it, it will clear it and put it back to neutral.
So as soon as I turn it, it's indicating that I have changed it. So I know
Yes.
that I have been monkeying with my filters. And Digi-Select.
That's actually the digital pre-selector in the front end of the radio. So if you're in a very strong RF environment, say over in Europe, where you're trying to work 40, and there's a lot of broadcast stations, you'd use the Digi-Cell for the pre-selector on the front end there. But stateside, especially in the area that you're in here, I would recommend changing the Digi-Cell function in the set mode to go over to APF for CW.
Okay.
Because when you go to the APF, your Digi-Cell adjustment here becomes your APF tuning. Okay, so we tuned around in the bands and we found some CW signals to demonstrate the APF function on the radio. And we found some here on 40 meters. And right now we got a lot of noise, a lot of static.
And a lot of signals.
2 signals here. The APF is an adjustable automatic peak filter. We've got wide, push and hold, mid, and push and hold narrow. We'll go here to the wide. We have both signals in there. Tighten it up just a little bit, and then use the Digi-Cell. So I can get just on that one lower signal. I can adjust the pitch for whatever I like. And then I can go up here and get the other guy without changing my operating frequency.
And we're not even using noise reduction either.
No,
This is just with the filter alone.
just with the filter alone. And we're also using 1.2 kilohertz, so I can make it even tighter. But going back to the wider, I can get both signals out of the same passband.
And I hear at least 3 signals there.
There's 3 now. And for those that have 7700s out there wondering where I'm getting this setting, we'll come out and hit the set and go to others. And you'll find the command Digi-Cell VR operation, which is variable operation. It's defaulted to Digi-Cell. But if you go to the APF, that's where this then becomes your adjustment for the APF.
Okay.
Only the 7700 and 7800 have that adjustable functionality. The 7600 has the APF, but you then use your tuning dial
Okay.
to make your adjustments.
And then following on down, of course, we have the notch. And
You've got the manual notch. The outer one's going to be your notch.
okay.
Now, one thing about the notch is you can select a wide, mid, and narrow on the notch as well.
Now the notch is going to be different here. It's a manual notch here,
Yes.
because you wouldn't want to auto notch on CW, or you would notch out what you were trying to listen to.
But if we come over here to sideband,
Yep. I can hit the notch here, and
a lot of key clicks. There's a nice, beautiful heterodyne.
yes.
When you go to your automatic notch, you notice it's gone. But look at what you got right here on your scope.
You still got plenty of signal.
Yes. But if you go to the manual,
Oh, you lose signal.
yes. The automatic notch just masks it in the audio. Does not take it out of the S meter. So when you use the manual notch, that's 70 dB of attenuation that will then take it out of the S meter.
Okay. Does it also take it out of the AGC?
Yes, that's what's driving your S meters, your AGC circuit.
Okay. So really the manual notch is going to give me more protection. It's going to notch out that signal, but also going to allow my signal I'm trying to hear pass through stronger.
Yeah, so if you got somebody close by tuning up and you're working a real weak signal and you're trying to hear them go QSL, that everything was exchanged properly, but somebody else wants to work them, is sitting there tuning up, your automatic notch is going to mask them. But if their RF power overpowers the weaker signal, you'll never hear them. But if you go to the manual notch and you notch the guy out using the manual notch, your S meter and everything the floor noise will drop down to whatever the next stronger signal is going to be. And maybe it's that guy that you're trying to get that QSL 59.
Below the notches then we've got the RIT, which receive increment tuning, is that the right name?
Yes, sir, it is.
And that basically just allows me to shift off a little bit. I use it here. We have a net control on one of the nets here that's his rig's off frequency. And so
He will never admit it, will he?
he will never admit it. So when his night comes along, I'll turn on the RIT and I'll turn off just a little bit there so I can hear him in a somewhat normal voice. But yet when I transmit, I'll be on the frequency that I intend to transmit on. So that only affects the receive frequency. Of course, I guess this means delta transmit.
Yes, that's going to do what you just did with your RIT for his signal. You can do that for your transmit, so you can move it some.
Right. And then clear just takes out whatever I had set there.
Well, there's two different ways of clearing it. One is just what I would call rag chew mode, where you push and hold it. That's basically you're telling it, yes, I definitely want to clear it. But for contesters, every little second counts. A push and hold could be a lost cue.
Yeah.
So you can go into set mode and set that clear from momentarily tap, and it will clear it.
Yeah.
If you push and hold it, it will put it into your VFO. Same thing if you do your RIT. So your RIT, say he's 5K off.
Yeah, once I find him, then I could.
Once you find him, you push and hold it, and it will write it to your VFO.
So if he's the only guy I'm trying to listen to, well, then that's fine.
Yes.
That works just fine, because I might as well transmit where he's transmitting.
Or where he thinks he's transmitting.
Or where yeah. And another button here that's self-explanatory.
S plus 67.30241 megahertz.
And we've talked about what split is. That'll let you transmit on one frequency in one VFO and receive in the other.
Yes.
And then CW pitch, we've seen that demonstrated. So Ray, I think we finally figured out what all these knobs were for on here. I'm sure there's other things that we didn't cover, and the book has more details on that.
The book will give you more details on the features and the function, but it will not go in and explain to you the benefit of using it. And there are other publications that you can find out there that will go into your basic receive operation. One of the nice things on the radio is the buttons either have a single touch or a touch and hold function. And it's not going to screw anything up on the radio doing the touch and hold to find out what it does.
Well, it's a nice radio, Ray, and I understand a little more about it now since we've had this chat. And I'm looking forward to getting on a little later tonight and doing a little more rag chewing, which is my favorite mode of operating. But, you know, I may have to check out the next contest now. I know a few tricks.
Oh, yeah. The digital voice recorder is definitely helpful for you. It cuts down an amount of time, and there's actually a possible smoke and solder project for you. In the manual, it tells you how to connect up a resistor box. Instead of going into the voice and hitting the T1 through T4 buttons, you hit this 4 button.
Okay.
And it will send out those without having to be in this menu.
Well, that's pretty good, because I could have this doing the scope or doing something else for me rather than having it dedicated to my voice cues or CW cues, whatever I'm using. Or PSK or RIDI cues. I've got all those. Well, Ray, thanks for showing me a little more about my IC-7700 here. I've really been enjoying the radio ever since I installed it, but now I'm ready to get in and do some more advanced things. So I'm going to get on the air here in just a few minutes.